10 steps to retire on only $500,000. Ooh, juicy topic, right? It can be done. I did it a year and a half ago at the age of 59. I'm still going strong. Number one, lower your expenses before you retire. Now, you might want to be doing that like a couple years out, maybe even 5 years out. Start lowering those expenses before you go into retirement. Because if you're retiring on a moderate budget, $500,000, you better know exactly how much you're spending per year, right? It doesn't matter if you have $3 million in your retirement portfolio. If you're spending $250,000 a year, you think that's going to last you very long? It's even more important with only $500,000. You better know what your expenses are going to be, which is number two. Know how to budget. There are two ways to do this. There's the top-down method, which is seeing how much you spend over a yearly basis. That tells you, right? That tells you what your budget is. Not very accurate, because that can totally fluctuate too. The way I like to do it is called the bottom-up budget, which is basically track exactly how much you spend every single month. Average that out over 3 months. See what that comes to. That gives you a much more accurate picture of what your budget is going to be. And going into retirement on $500,000, you better make sure that you know what you're going to be spending on a monthly basis, down to like every 20 to 50 bucks, let's say. Doesn't have to go down to $1, but as accurate as you can. Do the bottom-up method. That's the best way for me. Time for my morning vodka. Excuse me. Little dry throat. Nothing like vodka in the morning. Number three, and this is pretty obvious, right? Start saving early. The earlier, the better. I didn't start saving until I was 40, and yet I was still able to retire at 59 with $500,000. Now I'm 60, I'm a year and a half into it. I'm doing okay. But obviously, the earlier you start, the better, right? I mean, you could, if you're going to retire on $500,000, you're not going to be retiring at 50, okay? So you may be able to retire a little bit earlier, depending on when you started saving. But if you started saving really early, forget about $500,000, man. Go higher. But if it took you a long time to start saving, like me, start saving as early as you can, and you'll be able to retire on just $500,000. It's not easy. It's not hard. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. You just got to be in there, which brings me to my number 4 point. You got to be disciplined. You have to be very disciplined in order to make this work. Start practicing that discipline earlier on. Like when you're saving for your 401k, do that every single month. Don't skip months, guys. Don't skip months. I know it's tempting if you have some very big unexpected bills that come up. It's like, well, my 401k contribution doesn't really have to be this month, does it? Yeah, it does. Be disciplined. If you're not disciplined early on, trying to flip that switch in retirement to being disciplined because you've only got $500,000, it's not going to work. So you got to be disciplined. Number 5, don't take numerous vacations. Now, by numerous vacations, my definition of those kind of vacations are big spend vacations, $5,000, $3,000. Oh, we're going to go to France for like a week or two. Okay, great. But you don't have to do that every year, do you? There's so many things that you can do in the area around your, 2-3 hours around from your house. Take a 3-day weekend, take a 4-day weekend, or just go somewhere, maybe a quick plane ride, like 2 hours away, 4-day weekend. Don't take those big ticket vacations like twice a year. Maybe once a year. Sure, that might work out for you, as long as you're being disciplined, right? Just don't do it every single year. You gotta be, if you wanna retire with $500,000, you gotta be somewhat frugal, okay? Taking those big ticket vacations every single year is not being frugal. Number 6, and this is a big one. This is one that a lot of people don't realize. Know your expected taxes going into retirement, okay? It could be totally different than when you're working. And in most cases, it will be totally different than when you were working. Now, if you're going to be retiring on $500,000, your taxes probably won't be that high because your expenses and what you're pulling out of your retirement aren't going to be that much. In my case, this first year, I just did my taxes. I was in the 12% tax bracket. You might be in 20, 22. That's okay. But know your expenses going in, or your taxes going into retirement, especially when you get to the age of 72. I think it's maybe 73 or 74 now because they bumped up the age for RMDs, which are required minimum distributions you have to take out of your retirement accounts. Now, if you've got a big nest egg at that point, your taxes could be huge. One caveat though, if you're retiring with only $500,000, you might not have that big of an issue with RMDs. But if you think you will, start doing Roth conversions. Start doing them in your 50s, a little bit each year. You know, what that will do is that'll reduce your nest egg. So when it comes to when you're 72, 73, you won't have this huge tax bill because you've already paid taxes on some of that in your Roth. And now you have tax-free assets that are growing for you. Okay, so know your taxes. Number 7, you really have to research healthcare. You really got to do that. In my case, I retired at 59, so I have 6 years until I reach 65 for Medicare. Got to know that, guys. I mean, for what worked out, here we go again. I guess it's time for more vodka. The throat just can't take it. In my case, what's worked for me is Obamacare. Might not be the same for everyone, but what's great about Obamacare is that if you're pulling a limited amount out of your retirement accounts, in my case, I'm only pulling $25,000 a year out of my retirement account. Because of that, that's your income. That is the income that Obamacare will look at. And if you're low enough, which in my case I am, they will give you subsidies to lower your premium. So in my case, it's worked out well. I'm not paying much at all. What is it now? $175 a month on taxes on medical expenses just for me. That's not bad. Again, this might not be the right situation for you. Also, if you have a spouse that's still working, get on their health care. I mean, that's golden. You're set, right, until you reach Medicare. So you got to know, you got to research healthcare before you go into it. You can't just wing it. You know, you can't just say, oh, I'll worry about when I get there. If you retire early like me, no way. Okay, if you retire 63, 64, maybe you might be okay, but just remember that. Look into that. Number 8, choose where to live wisely. In my case, I'm living in a rural area of Southern California, and it's pretty low cost of living. I mean, it's not bad at all compared to Los Angeles, where I was for 30 years. But there are people living overseas, different countries, that are making this work on like a tiny amount of money. Costa Rica, the Philippines, even some areas of Europe, you know, like rural areas of Italy, France. Know where you're going to live in retirement. That could really, really give you peace of mind if you only have $500,000, okay? Do that research. Don't just go into it and just figure it out on the fly. It's not going to work. Be smart about that. Number 9. I didn't really expect this was going to happen when I first retired, but once I got into it about 4, 5, 6 months, especially with the bad economy that was going on, that we still have going on, and sequence of returns risk just hit me upside of the head like with a big bat. You might have to bring in some part-time income. Now, I tried to do this initially, you know, trying to get online jobs. Didn't work out. I think in my case, and probably in many of yours, if you try the same thing, ageism. They look at your resume. Even if you don't put the years you graduated from college, you can add it up pretty quickly, right? So they looked at that and they're like, okay, this guy is kind of getting up there. Crickets. No one came back to me for any kind of the applications I put in. Luckily, I found YouTube, and this is working pretty good for me. But you know what? So what if you have to work part-time? I mean, this is a new retirement, guys, in this day and age. So what does that make you? Semi-retired? Who cares about labels? This is your life. This is your retirement. You do what you want. You know, if you have to bring in part-time income, so what? You work 10, 15 hours a week, so what? You're still, in my book, you're still retired, right? You're living life on your own terms. You can do it. The last one I have, and this will be kind of controversial to some of the subscribers that I already have. Oh, and by the way, if you like this, if you like what I'm talking about, we have a good community of moderate income individuals. Consider subscribing. We've got a lot of good ideas go back and forth, and please like the video. Anyway, this could be kind of controversial for some of my current subscribers. Number 10, pay off your house. If you can pay off your house before you're retired, you're set, man. It's gravy. You don't need $500,000. You could get by with a lot less than that, probably, if you're frugal or somewhat frugal. In my case, I found this property 6 months after retiring, and I had to have it. Luckily, I got it for a pretty good deal, but I knew once I got it, okay, I'm going to have to get some income coming in. But yeah, if you can pay off your house, guys, you're set, man. You're easy street. Especially if you have $500,000 saved up, you're good to go. So anyway, those are my 10 steps for retiring on $500,000. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe you get some, some good info out of it. And just remember, as always, we got this.